Yamaha MR-1. This particular engine is out of a 2005 VX110 Deluxe. Recently riding up the river, I had timing chain tensioner failure, which led it to stall and leave me up on the beach. So I just wanted to share because I couldn't find a video of how to properly set the timing, aside from the service manual, which I don't own and I'm not trying to buy. It's a budget build, so I know that I should probably replace the timing chain and probably some other things, but at the moment, again, it's budget build. We're just going to replace the timing chain tensioner and put her back in and see how it goes. So I wanted to show kind of what I had to do. I'm not going to physically show everything, but I wanted to get you here and show the top dead center of piston number 1 and also the timing marks on the cam to properly line up the chain and get it tight, take all the slack out of it. We temporarily got our tensioner spring has been broken, so it's bypassed, and I have it manually tightened in there currently, which is always an option to just get it home. If it's loose, you can manually tension it by taking the nut off the back of it there with a little tiny thin flathead screwdriver. Reach in there and manually turn the adjuster to get your tension out, or to get tension on the chain. So basically what I had to do was pull this right hand side guide, and when I did that, it allowed me to be able to rotate the chain over the exhaust side cam to properly line up the cam. If you look here, there's a little dimple on the first lobe that lines up with a little dimple or a mark on the end of the cam cap with an arrow. This dimple only lines up with the front cap. There's no other marks on the back to help you line it up. The only reference that I have is that the cam lobes for the very back cylinder, or closest to the chain, should be facing each other, or mostly facing each other. They're actually slightly down, almost parallel with the top of the head there. And then the back, or cylinder number 1, should be almost facing straight out. If you can see the lobes facing out, almost parallel with the head. That was really the only initial reference that I had. And then coming back to find the dimples in the cam lobes for the exhaust there. And then on the intake, it's not on this front one, it's back on the back cap, and there's a dimple there on the cam lobe with a line on the cap and arrow that should line up. So after I removed the guide and rotated the cam at top dead center for cylinder number 1, I rotated the cam to get the alignment marks lined up, put my chain back on it, took all the slack out, made sure all the slack was gone, had my alignment mark there and still at top dead center. I put my guide back in. That allowed it to stay on the cam gear and not slip off anymore, because it's pretty close. So when you put that guide back in there, it will take up, what distance in between the chain and the case, so that the chain can't slip off the gear. Once that one's in, I backed off my tensioner. I actually originally had my tensioner all the way out in order to get enough slack in the chain here to rotate my intake cam to meet the alignment marks. So I put a little slack here in the middle, get my chain on there, rotate the cam backwards to where it's tight here at the chain, and then my alignment mark lines up. Once I got those two alignment marks lined up on the cams and top dead center, I then put my tensioner back in and then manually tightened it into a tight position to take up all the slack so that it wouldn't pop off. Because if you let go of the cam, it wants to naturally rotate, so it'll pop out of place if you don't keep tension on it. So manually installed my tensioner to put tension on it. So it currently is relatively tight. It's not god-awful tight, but enough to keep tension to where it's not going to slip out of place, and I can rotate the engine for top dead center. So I'm now going to hand you to my assistant while I rotate. And he's He's just going to watch cylinder number 1 here. Nice and close. Come a little closer if you would. There you go. Maybe back a little bit. There you go. There you go. Great, great, great. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate, which would be, this should be intake. That's once up for 180 out. That's compression or exhaust. Then intake. And we'll rotate until we got top dead center, as close as I can possibly get it. Which I believe should be about right there. And then if we look back here, our exhaust cam marks line up, our intake marks line up, and I'll do a whole nother revolution for you. Top dead center. Caps line up again. Well, that's about it. Got my tensioner on the way. Should be here in the next day or two or few, whatever it is, and we'll get her put back together and in the skid and let her rip. Let you know how it goes. Thanks for watching.